just stole your camera.
Hiya. A bit faster, 3, 2, 1, fight.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Go.
No!
What? No!
That was too fast.
Lie down and start practicing getting up in the middle of your board.
Right there, you've got the humpback whales, right there. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, what we're going to do today is take you through the 6 steps that you'll need to take to get your working holiday visa off to a flying start in Australia. Okay, so before we get into this video, just remember that everything that I'm about to tell you, there's a link for it in the description of this video to take you to that relevant place in order to do what you need to do to get your working holiday visa. So the first thing is setting up your working holiday visa. Now, in order to set up your working holiday visa, that means you need to purchase the visa, and that means you need to go to the Australian government website and actually buy that visa on their website. It has to be with the Australian government website because it's an official website, it's an official document that you're buying, and I recommend not going with any third parties, just go straight with the Australian government website. Right, so there's a couple of other issues with this, is the price. So the price is 450 Australian dollars for the visa. That works out at around about 250 British pounds. So it's quite pricey, but for the experience that you're going to have in Australia, it's very much worth it. Now, over and above this there's a list of eligible countries. So countries that are allowed to apply for this visa and countries that are not allowed to apply for this visa. You're going to have to check to see if your country is on that list. If it's on the list, you're good to go. That means it's eligible. If your country is not on the list, it means it's not eligible and you can't apply for the working holiday visa. Sorry guys. But yeah, make sure you check that list. Usually they've got all the developed countries on there, but just double check just to be sure. Also, you're going to have to include a couple of things in this visa application. So in order to make sure that you don't miss anything, I've included a document checklist in the description of this video. Click on that link and it will take you to a website that will let you see everything you need to include in your application so that you don't miss anything. Alright, so moving on to the second section, which is buying your one-way flight ticket. The most important part of this whole video, and probably the best part actually. Who doesn't like buying a one-way ticket to the place they've always wanted to go to, right? So the best thing to do is actually go via Skyscanner. I've used Skyscanner for the past 2 years. It's served me really, really well. And I've found a couple of things with Skyscanner that are going to be useful for you actually. So Skyscanner is essentially a price comparison website that compares all the airlines prices to give you the cheapest price possible. Now, I've worked out over my 2 years of experience with Skyscanner is that the cheapest flights tend to be on a Tuesday and a Wednesday for departing, right? Not only that, is in the middle of the month, okay? So not the beginning, not the first 10 days and not the last 10 days, but that middle golden period of the month is actually the cheapest time to fly in any given month. I don't know why that is. I don't know why things are cheaper in that period. It's just from my experience, whenever I've booked flights, I've always found it to be too expensive at the beginning of the month and too expensive at the end of the month. And I've always found that it's always been a better, cheaper price in the middle of the month on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So definitely have a play around with that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll be interested to hear what your thoughts are on that. But that's just what I've found. Alright, moving on to the third part of this video, and that is basically buying your first week's accommodation in Australia. Woo! So if you're going to Cairns, or if you're going to Sydney, or if you're going to Melbourne, I've got links in the description of this video of the hostels there that you can go to. Choose from the list. It's with Hostel World. They've been the website that I've used in my 2 years of traveling, and I totally recommend that as well. And that's all I really have to say about that. The fourth section, which is setting up your Australian bank account. Now, it's pretty relatively straightforward. The best bank that you can possibly go with in Australia is Commonwealth Bank, and the reason why I say that is because Commonwealth Bank is basically everywhere you look. You cannot miss the damn people. Like, they're everywhere, literally. The second best bank to go for in Australia is ANZ. They're the second most popular bank in Australia, and yeah, I suppose you could go with them, but Commonwealth Bank is a lot more visible. There are a lot more branches, and it's a lot more easier to just go and get money without having to go to a different bank and pay transaction charges because you're using a different bank than the one that you're with, you know. So just to avoid any of that, go with Commonwealth Bank. I've got a description in the link of this video. You can check out their website, but make sure you wait until you actually arrive in Australia to make an appointment with your bank, because they'll want to have a face-to-face meeting with you to open up your bank, because they're going to need a few documentations from you. The first one is a passport. The second one is a copy of your Australian Working Holiday Visa. So make sure that you keep a copy of your Australian Working Holiday Visa when it gets approved, and you get an email from the Australian government to say that, hey, you can enter our country now for 1 year. Thank you very much. Make sure you keep that email so that you can show to your bank. And you might want to print it out as well, because your bank likes paper. So, you know, literally, they like paper. So print it out. That leads us on nicely to the next section, all right? The next thing that you're going to need to provide the bank when you have an appointment with them above your passport and your working holiday visa is proof of your Australian address. And you're probably thinking, well, Kyle, I don't live in Australia, so how can I have an Australian address? Well, believe it or not, Jimmy, you do. You've got an Australian address because you're living in a hostel. Now, the good thing about staying in a hostel is you can just go to the reception of the hostel and you can ask them, hey, I'm staying with you guys, but I'm also opening a bank here because I'm on a working holiday visa and I need to have proof of my address. And what they're going to do is they're going to go, okay, they'll get out a nice little bit of paper with their logo on it and their contact details, and they'll basically type in a little note to say that you stay there, and then they'll sign it with their handwriting, you know, make sure it's handwritten signature that they sign with. And then that's a proof of your Australian address. You just basically take that along to your bank appointment with you when you're opening your bank, and you provide that documentation to them, and then you're all good to go. You've got a bank account and you can start getting paid. That's the whole plan, guys. After that, you're gonna have to apply for your Australian tax number. And a little tip, I actually recommend you apply for your Australian tax number before you do anything with your bank. And the reason why is because your Australian tax number can take up to 20 days to be approved. So if you do that first and then go and do your bank account, that way by the time you've done your bank account, your Australian tax number is being processed while you're doing all your other stuff, and therefore you're not going to do all your other stuff and then have to wait for your Australian tax number. Hopefully you get my point. So yeah, so your tax number, basically there's a link in the description. It's going to take you straight to the website that you need to apply for your tax number in Australia. And you need to apply for it because you're going to start working in Australia and you have to pay tax to the government. So this tax number, believe it or not, allows you to pay tax to the government. So you're going to need that. I recommend you go into the description of the video and click that link and get that sorted. I think you can actually apply for your Australian tax number as soon as you've been approved to your working holiday visa. So you could probably actually apply for your working holiday visa. No, you can probably actually apply for your tax number while you're still in your country before you're actually in Australia. And that would actually work out pretty well, because then by the time you get to your city in Australia and you set up your bank account and everything like that, your tax number would have been approved and you would have been given it, and you can just start working straight away. So definitely recommend you look into that. And that's basically it. That's those 6 points. That's those 6 steps that you're going to need to take to actually get your working holiday visa in Australia off to a smashing start. Now, what I need you to do is go into the description of the video, click on the links, have a play around with it, see what you think, and get your working holiday visa off to a flying start. And then that's you. You can thank me later. Alright? Until next time, guys, thank you very much. Take care.